blaring horn, the abrupt gust of wind, and swirling wheels on the railway envelop your senses of a passing locomotive. The general public doesn't realize the vast amount of test procedures that are included in these massive metal monsters that are included to provide your safe operation of locomotives while they are in our neighborhoods. There are numerous procedures required for track testing. Such procedures will include the prior to track pre-trip inspections, the physical track testing, and the completion of final inspections after the unit comes back from track. Such tests during these procedures can include the simulation for freight, polling, and dynamic brake use, as well as the various use of throttle incremental speeds. In order to begin the testing procedure, the engineer starts his pre-trip inspection process. This process includes a visual and comprehensive walk-around check of wheel and axle assemblies, air brake systems, diesel engine components, fuel, oil, and air checks, as well as for leaks and other general damage that is already present with the locomotive. So after the engineer completes his defect checkoff, he will attempt to crank the engine. During the cranking process, he will enable his primary contactor relays. I quote Richard Grant, "These send proper inputs to the pumps to start the priming process." Once the process has been started, the engineer will monitor his onboard computer screens in the operator cab. Here he's looking at these computers to determine his pressure is building and stabilizing. Once the pressure is stabilized, he will visually check that the alternator is turning over and the engine cranks to an idling state. Upon completion of the pre-trip inspection, the track testing can commence. In order to get on the track, the engineer coordinates with a conductor who also coordinates with a radio dispatch team, and they obtain clearance to enter the track to begin their testing procedures. The conductor coordinates with the engineer again to set up the rail switches and to couple the units together as far as the brake application pipes and other coupling knuckles to ensure the units will not move apart from each other. The testing procedure calls for a lead unit and a trail unit locomotive. The lead unit will act as what is pulling a whole bunch of freight cars. It could be anywhere from 100 to 300 freight cars that this unit particularly might need to pull at some point in its lifetime. While as the trail unit is acting as the slug trying to weigh down the lead unit. The lead unit will use a various throttle speed going anywhere from 15 to 35 to 45 miles an hour during the testing trip, while the trail unit is going to use a dynamic brake application to further slow down the lead unit, trying to simulate pulling large amounts of freight. Halfway through the testing on the track, the engineers will stop the locomotives. They will get out and visually verify that there is no other damage, there's no other leaks that have occurred inside the components of the engine cab, other piping configurations, and possible hose leaks as well while they're already. After the testing is complete, the locomotive will return to the testing facility for their final visual checks, again to make sure there was no other damage that occurred on the return trip and everything else is ready to ship to the customer at this point. There are many tasks that the engineer is responsible for checking to ensure a safe operation of locomotives. These all must comply with the Federal Railroad Emissions rules that they have laid out. It's a comprehensive list. There are many possible scenarios that can occur while they're out there if these test procedures and test setups are not properly followed. Possible road failures can include fatalities according to any civilians that come in contact with these machines, parts flying off, engines blowing up. There's a whole list of very grim outlook on these possible scenarios here. Next time that you encounter a railroad crossing, you've seen the locomotive pass you, or even if it's just the cars, take the time to think to yourself of the vast requirements, the safe operation of these locomotives, and the testing components that these guys have to go through on a daily basis to make sure their lives are accounted for and yours are accounted for as well. These are just many of the various testing procedures and protocols they have to have in place.